like we always say, try to find, like, whatever the chord is, always try to find your triad. Where's your triad? Where's your triad? Now, we did that in a few instances. In this case, we're not really getting ourselves a triad. You know what I mean? So we have to kind of scale back. And I like the way that you did that. I like the way that you kind of said, like, oh, well, I have a third in there. And you're right. There is only one third in that chord, the B to the D. So I like that that's where you went first. That is definitely the next place to go first. We don't need a 5. So now we've sort of got this B minor 7, right, without a 5, which is fine, but we've got the 4 instead. So it's like a B minor 7 with an add 4, or a B minor or a B minor 11, or a B minor 7 add 11. Sometimes the 11s just are an add. Well, no, and it's not. And because like if it was a 9, it would just be a B minor 9, right? If it was a 13 or a flat 13, it would be like a B minor flat 13. The only problem is the 11 always, for some reason, gets some sort of an add. This chord is a little bit different, though. And the reason that this chord is a little bit different is because the third, the D, is on the bass, right? So now not only do we have a sort of unstable chord, but the D's in the bass. So in this one instance, when we're stacking this up, B, D, E, A, it seems a little bit more reasonable that all we're really doing is just stacking 4 notes. And I know that sounds ridiculous, right? Where it's just, it almost sounds like a cop-out. Now, if you had to write a lead sheet for this, yes, you would write B minor 9. Some people do write, or I'm sorry, B minor 7, add 11, omit 5. And I know that sounds wild, but the reason you would, yeah, it doesn't make sense. You don't always need the 5, but in this case you would write omit the 5 because it's really unpresent in this chord. Taking the 5 out and putting the 4 in colors it so differently. Yes. And the reason that we take the 5 out structurally is like there's like an organ doing it, the bass is doing it. I mean, a lot of times, like a bassist, I know if you're doing something like this, like a bassist will ask you to take the 5 out, and they'll lead in with the 5 sometimes. So that's why we take it out. The only reason, if we didn't have the 4 in there, and all you did was stack BDA, 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 up and up, stacked it that way, I would write a B minor 7, right? And the bass would take care of the 5. Because the 4 is in there and it colors that chord so much, and there isn't a 5 to contrast with the 4, I would say that would be a B minor 7, add 11, omit 5. And there's a way to write it. If I was to put this in a song, like one really cool way to do this, like in a song, would be, let me make sure I even have the chord right, is like leading into it, like, oh, there's so many cool things you could do with that chord. Like you could take that and just go to an E minor. Or like an E major, or an E suspended 9, or a D, D suspended 9, take that B out and move that B up to a D. In that case, if you're just putting it in a song and moving it, with sort of transitional tones, I wouldn't worry about labeling it anything that crazy, But I like that, man. I like that you kind of tried to find the triad over and over. Always starting with the lowest note. That's like your best bet. Rarely would a minor 9 chord have the 9 in the bass, and the 9 in the bass. So awesome, dude. What's another one that you were kind of messing around with? It seems like it's like randomly generated staff music. bunch of notes, sharps and flats, whatever. And you have to go in and you have to find the chord, and that's what you should start doing. That's what you begin doing is you start saying like, where's the triad, or at least do I have a 1, a 3, and a 7 somewhere in there, and then move forward with extensions. What was cool about that class is you had to do that for X amount of chords, 6-note chords stacked up, and then we had a different but randomly generated bunch of chords where the root note had to be the bass. Or, I'm sorry, the bass note had to be the root. You know what I mean? So that's when it started getting into like omit 5s and, sharp 9s, because there was a major 3rd in the chord and stuff like that. Because you were forced to, and no 3s. Like some of these chords would have a suspended, but it wouldn't even be like a sus2 or a sus4. It would just not have a 3 at all, because you were forced to figure out each of those tones in relation to the note on the bottom has to be the root note. It was really interesting because the chords beforehand that were stacked up, someone might look at a chord differently. Like the examples that I always give is if it's something like an A minor 9, someone for whatever reason might think that B is actually a major 7 to a C, and then the A is like the 13 or something. You know what I mean? And depending on how it's stacked, the 6s are always weird because, a lot of times people will think something like, a C minor with a flat 6 in it, they'll say like, C minor, 5 in the bass, C minor with a flat 6 in the bass is really, that's really just a G sharp major chord now. G sharp major 7 chord. So that's where if the 6 isn't on the bass, then that person might not be wrong. You know what I mean? But when they start sitting up higher like that, it almost like matters the intervals that they're stacked in. Like not even like what's on the bass, the minor 9 is all you have to do. If I have this chord right here, going across 5s across the bottom 4 strings, and then a 7 on the bottom string. So it's actually 5, 5, 5, 7. Right? It could be an A minor 9. I have a flat 7, a minor 3rd, a 5, and a 9. Right? Right. Now, what's that? Oh yeah, dude, I love it because you can also. Yeah. Nice. Major 7 though. But yeah. Yeah, but that's awesome. So it went down to a G major 7, but that's the same. So A minor 9. So check this out. If you took this, right, you said like, all right, mess around with an A minor 9. Then you went down here and you did that sort of thing. What now you could do is think like, all right, when I'm up here, the first time, I'm going to put an A on the bass. All right, that's definitely an A minor 9. When I'm down here, I'm going to put a G on the bass. So it's not just taking this down to an E minor 9. I'm putting a G on the bass, so this makes it a G major 7. Right? Now, watch this. If I go back up for that first chord, I can put a C on the bass. I can't really even play it, but if I did that, what that changes this to is now a C major 7. And then when I go down to the A, a C add 6. And then when I go back down for this one, I could put an E on the bass. and make it an E minor 9. So like what's happening here is just doing this. You're like, all right, man, do I want to make that like A minor, or do I kind of want to make it like C major, like more of a C major 7 thing? And then you can switch it, and that guitar part could never change, you know. And that's what I love, kind of moving around with the relative majors and minors. And that's why the 6 is like, you know, is that A 6 to the C? Well, maybe if it's up that high and there's a C in the bass, you know. But if you do the same thing and there's an A in the bass note is not playing a 6. The bass note is definitely playing the root of an A minor. You know what I mean? And that makes it so much, like, you can't just take the notes all the time. You can't just take the notes and say like, oh, well, I have this, this, and this, so it's definitely a C major 7, you know. And it's just like, oh, it kind of does matter, you know, what is happening down there, you know, or even in the middle, you know. Example is, think about how strong the top end of this chord is. And this is what I love about this voicing of a minor 9, is if you leave the 5 in there, it creates the 5 to the 9, creates that perfect 5th. So there's so much stability on the top of that chord. Now the problem is, if somebody sees an E and a B somewhere in there, they might say, oh, there's my perfect 5th. If it's lower, there's my perfect 5th. So then maybe the bass note is like an inversion, but I'm going to kind of look at this chord as an E being on the bass, you know? And that's why things are so important. I mean, another one of my favorite minor 9s is this, because it has such a strong power chord top, and then it just messes around with the 9 and the minor 3rd literally right next to each other. And if I do this, it's so abrasive, but when I put this perfect 5th under that perfect 5th, because of how rock solid it is, stabilizes that dissonance, you know. Because if I, like, what's cool about that is you could do like, right, and it's just like, that just sounds like absolute mayhem. But I can start with those same 2 notes, and now just adding that super stable perfect 5th at the bottom is going to give me even more. If I didn't, and I had, let's say, like those 2 notes, but I had the A and the C, I took the perfect 5th out, now I have this. Is so unstable, and it's just 1 minor 3rd, 9 minor 3rd, and it doesn't soften it up at all as much as that perfect 5th at the bottom. So it's just really, it's where you are music level.